dog. I'ma dive on the floor, go try to block every shot, and I'ma be physical with you the whole game. You know Stu gonna be physical with you. When you think of the Pistons, you think of just hard work and just gritty basketball. That's just the identity you gotta have when you put on that jersey.
I'm not your average breed of King 9. Not a good dog, I'm bad boy for life. I set the tone, don't care about no tick. Let it be known, I get my respect. Come in the lane and see I don't bluff. If you retaliate, that's on ya. Talking hundreds, I hear you're ashamed. Talking that chop, you must want this way. Tryna tell ya, if the dog palm, mess around, find out, if the dog palm, mess around, find out, for some barbecue sauce, boy, you better crop a hill, cause I'm like that. When you're ready for some barbecue sauce, boy, you better crop a hill, cause I'm like that. The dog palm, mess around, find out.
What up, though, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Downtown Dude Show. I hope everybody is having a great Sunday night. Tonight, as you guys can see, we are joined by pretty much what I call now a staple of the show, Clutch Points beat writer for the Detroit Pistons, Eric Vincent. You guys call him. I call him E. Vinny. Eric, how we feeling, bro?
Good to be here, man. I'm happy to be here with you, bro. It's gonna be a long, entertaining off season. I'm excited to peel back a little bit of it, and shout out to everybody who's in here with us right now too. Appreciate y'all.
Yes, we appreciate everybody who is always showing up and showing out as you guys always do. Shift God, I appreciate that. Says, what up, though, fellas? Deuce, you called him, man. I think he's talking about a particular player that I've had my eye on for the past year or so. We'll get to that later. So, Shift God, appreciate you. DG, everybody who's here, see all you guys in the chat, man. So we appreciate all the love that you guys always show. And we're going to get as many of you guys comments in as we can. So, bro, the Pistons off season is going to be very interesting. Going to be pretty busy, but I don't think in the way that many were kind of hoping for. Many people have a different view, but I know a lot of people were looking for big splashes and things like that. I'm not sure we're going to get that. And that takes us to our first topic, man. So every year around this time, we kind of talked about this before we started, but every year around this time, we see a lot of interesting mock trade ideas, all that. So let's just kind of start there, bro, because we've been seeing and hearing that the Pistons need to trade for guys like Devin Booker, Derek White in particular. Both good players, great player in the case of Devin Booker, obviously, but the asking price for some of these mock trades to me are wild. Considering guys like Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Stewart, Tobias Harris, and 33 picks for Devin Booker. And then for the Derek White, I know you've seen it, particularly the Jaden Ivey for Derek White and 2 first-round picks. Like, what are we doing? So I know this offseason is long, right? But it's clear that boredom has officially set in for many. So do you have any thoughts, bro, on either of those trades? I know you kind of talked about it a little bit. If you guys haven't seen it already, Eric just did a show not too long ago, on his channel talking about, this particular mock trade we're going to get to. So check that out if you haven't already. But if you don't mind, Eric, just kind of sharing some of what you said with, over there, kind of bring it over here and just kind of give your take on some particular trade proposals or one in particular that you mentioned.
Yeah. So on my page on YouTube, top title Detroit, you guys can go check it out and sub if you'd like. I peeled back the Bleacher Report trade proposal of Jaden Ivey, 2 first-round picks, if I'm not mistaken, for Derek White, and I forgot the other player's name.
Man,
I don't get it.
Is it right here? Is it Baylor?
Yeah. Sorry,
Shireman?
Baylor Shireman. Sorry about that.
Never heard of him.
Yeah,
sorry. No disrespect. Never heard of him.
No disrespect to the Celtics. I'm not very familiar. If y'all would have put me on and educate me, I'm not, opposed to learning. I don't want to be whatever. Let me just move forward. I don't know, man. I feel like me and you, maybe like a few others around the media in the Pistons circle that really have any kind of respect, or not even respect, but just maybe patience and understanding for what Jaden Ivey means to this team.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, if I understand at some points in some areas of some franchises, your core has to break down at some point. I totally understand that being the case.
Right.
I just don't understand why Derek White is being regarded like Tracy McGrady out this month. Like, I don't understand who y'all think this dude is, bro. I just don't get it.
Elaborate, please.
He's a fine player for the Celtics. He's their third best player. He's done some good things for him. He has, shown what his value can be as a role player, and even maybe a little bit more than that. But when you bring him to the Pistons in this, again, it's a hypothetical trade idea. It's not even anything reported or confirmed. But if this were to come over, he would not come over to the Pistons with the same level of responsibility. He would have to be basically your second best player, and not just for next year, but for the foreseeable future. Because if you're going to let Jaden Ivey go, that means you're willing to let go of the next 5 to 10 years, potentially of him, so you can have a guy that's 30 plus years old, turns 31 in July, be good for maybe a couple years because he's good right now. Bro, knock it off, bro. I don't understand what y'all see in this dude. He's a fine player, good defender, overrated offensively. That doesn't mean he's bad offensively. Yeah. He's not gassed up for what y'all make it seem like to be. And then I'm arguing with people online because I've heard people say he hasn't even done a fraction of what Derek White has done. Looking at this side by side, he was better than him offensively. So I don't care who you think is better.
Yeah.
It's the notion where people try to say things like he's not even close to what Derek White is, or he could never become that. Why? Because he's won a championship? Yeah. Like, bro, I've been in the league 3 years, really 2.5 based on what his injuries has been. And the way people talk about this dude is like, again, I don't think Derek White's a top 30 player. I thought it was weird that he was in Team USA, and I damn sure don't think he will be the second best player to help lift the Pistons to a championship contender in the Eastern Conference if he's your second best player, bro. Knock it off. I just don't see it, and I really wish y'all would stop gassing him. Please.
Y'all, man, we ain't even 10 minutes in. Y'all already making Eric crash out, man.
I'm sick, bro. I've been arguing about this all week. People talking to me like I'm crazy. Oh, he's a casual. Like, bro, who do y'all think Derek White is?
I'm asleep.
Stop, bro. Knock it off. He's not that great. He's good. He is not a great player in any way, shape, or form. There's a world where Jaden Ivey could be great. We don't know yet. But we've already seen him take steps in every season of his career, and y'all want to dish it off for a dude who looks like a mailman and a scammer. Like, stop it, bro. He's not that good. Stop it, please.
I think what you said is accurate as far as being a beneficiary of circumstance. Everybody knows how deep that Boston Celtics team was. So in the situation that he's been with the Pistons, having Cade as the best player and him being the second best player, it would be like losing Jaylen Brown and just having Jason Tatum.
Exactly.
And now let's see how defenses guard you. And I think that's the biggest thing that gets missed. If the Pistons had more talent, it would be a much different situation had they had that in the past. And they just didn't. We know they've had, year before last, they had 28, 29 starting fives, different starting fives. So it's like, come on, bro. It's not even a conversation. It's not even a conversation. Good player, but as far as the potential, the ceiling, I don't think it's really that close. As far as you look at the natural ability. Now, of course, the IQ and the experience and the championship experience, those things come with time. What is he going into year 9, I think, next year? Derek White?
And this is 31 in July, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Jaden isn't even halfway to that point. He's a third of that point.
Right.
So with the first time having a system and a roster and all that stuff, that makes sense for his game. So it's not even a conversation that I'm willing to have because it's too big of a risk, man. You still don't know what you have with these guys together. We've gone into the details of that. So no way I'm even considering that. Especially in the 2 first-round picks, just add insult to injury. Like, come on, bro. Like, what are we doing?
Like, it seems like a lateral move. Like, I genuinely don't think to me, we've argued and talked about it before. We believe if Ivy was healthy with beef stew, there's a chance that the Pistons are playing maybe as far as the Eastern Conference Finals. I'll temper it down and say second round. And I think that would be, sufficient enough based on where they are. If you bring Derek White in, like, do y'all really believe the Pistons will be Eastern Conference favorites or maybe get to the ECF or get to the finals against teams like the Pacers? Like, no, bro, that's not at all who this dude has been. And like, it's the dismissing that Ivy can't even get there. Like, like people, like I've seen people throw out all the, the advanced analytic numbers that show that Derek White is better. Cool. I'm not arguing any of that. Mm-hmm. Who's to say Ivy can't do that when he already passed him offensively off his 30 games alone? Right. He's going to have more opportunity. He's way more talented. The ceiling is way higher. He has way more familiarity with this team, way more coaching or trust in his coaching staff. What in the world makes y'all believe a dude who's been a role player his entire career is all of a sudden going to take over the reins as Cade's number 2 guy and all of a sudden turn this franchise around and make them a championship contender? It's complete garbage, bro. I'm sorry. White's a fine player. He's cool.
His levels.
Gassing him up like he's just this takeover franchise player. Again, I said I was tweeting about it. People have taken the impact of winning guys, like guys who are on winning situations and do a little bit of what their team needs them to do, and they get the impact on winning role. People have taken that way too far. Another level. Yeah. We saw it with Scotty Barnes, saw it with Evan Mobley, and now this dude to me is right on track in the same conversation, and it's so annoying to me.
And it's crazy that those two guys you mentioned were at times looked at to be better than Cade Cunningham very early, way better than Cade. Like Cade is not what we thought he was, and Scotty Barnes maybe the best player in the draft. Not only are we not hearing that about Jalen Green, Scotty, it's a lot of these guys in that draft. The narrative is really changing quickly. So it's interesting you mentioned those two guys, and that's why time is important for evaluation. That's why you can't make these decisions too quickly. So I totally agree with you on the Derek White point. Let's move to the Devin Booker situation, because we've heard his name mentioned a lot. And I like Devin Booker as a player. I love the hometown connection. I love how he puts on for the city. I love all that stuff. And he's top player of his generation, easily. Mm-hmm. And so the question for me just really becomes, is he a great fit for this team and what this team is trying to build? To me, that is the most important thing, along with at what cost? Mm-hmm. At what cost? I'm not by any means saying he wouldn't help this team offensively, right? But what are you losing on and off the court? That's the biggest thing for me. And adding a Devin Booker requires losing a lot of depth. Plain and simple. You look at the two teams headed to the finals right now, and you look at the two teams who they beat, right? Mm-hmm. The Thunder, they go 10 deep? Yeah. The Wolves, T-Wolves, who they beat, go 8. Yep. The Pacers, they go 9-10 deep? Mm-hmm. The Knicks go 7 deep. Mm-hmm. So there's a reason why in a 7-game series, you see one team gassed by game 6, 7, and the other running at full capacity. And it looks like to me, from my point of view, bro, that teams more and more are kind of being built on depth, right? As far as how they're building their team out. It's like they have a style of play that fits their personnel, right? Their star. And then they got a bunch of high-level guys who identify with that particular style. Right. So if you add a Devin Booker at $50 million a year, you're not going to have the depth of a Jaden Ivey and a Ron Holland and Isaiah Stewart and a Malik Beasley. Like, you're not going to have that. Some of those guys are going to be lost because of that. So for me, like at that point, you look like the T-Wolves, right? A good two-headed monster, but not enough to sustain like depth-wise in a long playoff series against teams who are deeper. So that's my initial thought when I hear those mock drafts with Booker. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and granted, like you said, this is going to be a big risk type of a deal. This is an idea that I would at the very least entertain. I'm not high on the idea of it, and I'll break it down a little bit further why. I just want to kind of get into this surface level for now. Yeah. This is an idea that I would at least entertain, just knowing who Devin Booker is, knowing the needs of the Detroit Pistons. This makes sense. A guy like Derek White is not a guy you break down your core for. I'm sorry. Like if you show up to the party, with Derek White as your number 2, thinking you stunting around a bunch of Rolls Royces, I'm throwing you out the party, bro. I'm sorry. Devin Booker is worth that discussion. I love Trey Murphy. He's worth breaking down your core for.
Nice.
Bro, those are the guys like great. I don't think it's going to happen, but if you had a chance to get someone like Giannis or like any of these high-level guys, like those are the guys you break your core out for. Go ahead.
Real quick, imagine if I'm not saying I want him, but imagine if Giannis came here and we had Greek Town here. It would go crazy, bro.
About that.
Isn't that wild? I mean, just from a money perspective, it would be insane. What you could do so much with that. Anyway, but I'm not saying I want Giannis. I just think if that happened and it was a bad trade, that would be the silver lining. Something like that.
That's going to have to be the first selling point if they do try to.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, for sure.
Greeks out for you, man. But back to Booker. Again, I like him as a player. I'm not as high on the idea anymore, just for a few different reasons. Obviously, again, I'm a big fan of Jaden Ivey, and seeing the growth that he's made, I think it would be way too early to give up on that, because based on a lot of teams that we've seen, if you look at teams like the Nets who traded, or the Knicks who traded 4 or 5 unprotected picks to get Mikal Bridges, the Rudy Gobert trade that Minnesota made, taking off their capital to get him. Even the same thing with the Nets when they're trying to go after Kevin Durant.
Right.
Same exact situation. Like, you don't see these kind of deals really like surfacing the winning expectations that teams are looking for right now. And a team like the Pistons, you're not just trying to be good right now. You want to be able to sustain your winning future for as long as your losing went on for.
Right.
So if you want to try to keep all of that in lock, I'm okay with them being patient and not crashing out for somebody like Devin Booker. I feel like if they were to make a big splash move, I understand why it would be a trade, but I don't think it would be at the detriment of costing 3-4 different picks and 2 of your core guys as well. Even including Tobias in it, I don't love it. I don't love including Ivy in it. I've seen ideas where Isaiah Stewart is in it. I don't really love that either.
Absolutely not.
I just don't think, again, you're going to have to take a risk. I totally understand that, but it has to be calculated and understanded for some reason. Like, if for some reason Booker gets injured in the first year of him getting traded over here, that's a season gone, and Kane is back in heliocentric mode again.
Exactly.
I just don't think you're in a position where you have the depth, the experience, or the talent around to be able to make those kind of implosions. Like, you got to be a little bit more patient with that. Again, I like Devin Booker. I really like where he's going in his career, but I don't know. I feel like teams like maybe Houston would be a little bit better suited for a guy like him instead of the Pistons crashing out and going to get everything to get him.
Yeah, I agree with you, bro. And just going back to that depth piece, because you mentioned how injuries would be very much more impactful if you make a move like that because of the depth you have to get up. It's not really next man up anymore. It's hope he don't get hurt. It's hope he gets up. That's what it comes down to.
Yep.
So, and like, you think about just going back into the past a little bit, right? Think about the difference between the Pistons winning in 2004 and them losing in 2005. The biggest reason was depth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In 2004, they were 9-10 deep, going and winning that championship. In 2005, they were like 7 deep. Lindsey Hunter and McDyess off your bench. You know what I mean? So like, guys like Mike James, Corliss, Okur, those guys were gone. And you saw it in game 7 of that series. It just didn't have enough. So I always say, not to go too deep into that, but I always say, if they kept that team intact, they would be back-to-back champions like the Bad Boys. So depth is important, bro. So another thing I want to consider too is, like, we talked about culture and all these different things and just building that foundational culture. Does Devin Booker really fit the style of play defensively that the Pistons are trying to play now?
No.
You know what I mean? Like, he's not the worst defender in the world, but somebody mentioned it earlier in the comments that it seems like he's aging fast. And it does feel to me like he never really truly relied on his athleticism 100%. He was always a very high IQ player, fundamental player, but it does seem like he's kind of losing half a step as far as his athleticism. So I don't know how long he's going to be at this level. And he's not old, he's 28, but that worries me as well. And for a team that is trying to be scrappy, gritty, tough, I want strong, athletic guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like guys who can ball hog, guys who can, guard you 94 feet like we saw the Pacers just do against Jalen Brunson. That type of stuff. So does Booker even add to your ability to create turnovers and get out in transition? Or maybe a guy like Jaden Ivey is better suited to do that? You know what I mean? Like, at this stage, I'm not saying Jaden Ivey's better than Devin Booker. No, I'm not saying that. But can he at least come close? Yeah. And the key to me is that he's young and he's right now a very willing defender, an improving defender, who's one of the fastest players in the league. He makes $40 million less this season. I mean, doesn't it make more sense to just keep the guy that fits your style of play at the very least for this season?
I would be more willing to entertain the idea if there were like glimpses that we saw between either Ivy or Cade. If there were moments between how they played this past season, if there were times where Cade was chucking too much and Ivy was getting it going, like remember when in OKC where Kevin Durant would get hot or James Harden would get hot, and then Russ would come down and just shoot their momentum right out and just start missing. If they had any of that friction, I would think, okay, maybe it's time to get something a little bit more stable. We haven't seen any of that between Cade and Ivy. Cade is very like aware enough to see, okay, he's getting it going right now. Remember the game against Miami where they came back from, I think, like 8 or 9 down. Tim Hardaway Jr. came down, hit like 3 triples in a row, and Cade had to find him on 2 different fast break possessions, knowing that he's the hot man. That kind of understanding and gelling is very important. So if you bring in a star like Devin Booker, for what you just said, based on culture and understanding of the roster, there's not really much to say that he would be willing to defer to the young guys and let them get theirs instead of, okay, let me go try to play Superman and get us back into this. Again, it's not to say that he would or wouldn't. We just haven't seen the proof that makes the gamble safe enough. So knowing that Cade and Ivy have that dynamic where they work well together, they're both very selfless players, good at making second-level passes, setting up JD, setting up Tobias for a 3, setting up Beasley for a 3. Like those kind of plays and that kind of chemistry, you don't really sleep on, especially when we haven't seen it like to the completion yet because of the injuries that the core has dealt with for the past few seasons. So nah, I don't know. I don't like the idea. I mean, maybe a few years ago it sounded good just knowing Devin Booker's Michigan ties and all that. But at this point, the idea just kind of seems a little less sexy than it did before, more and more every year.
Agreed. That was 4 years ago now when they were in the finals, right, against the Bucks. And the Bucks, they were up 2-0 and the Bucks came back and beat them. That was 4 years ago, right? So, you know, I'm just saying keep that in mind too. And you mentioned the injury history, and not the history, but just the injuries that have really made it tough to really see what these guys can be at their peak, right? And just think about, imagine Jaden and Nassar creating turnovers, bro, and getting out in the break.
Bruh.
We didn't see that at all last year because they didn't start at all last year, not one game. When Jaden got hurt, Nassar returned from the blood clot. So we never even saw the potential of those guys. Ball hawking, 94 feet, like we mentioned. Like, we have the athletes to do it, and they're willing to do that. That's important. They're leading with that, and that's what the Pistons' identity is. So on the other side of that, though, with Devin Booker, right? Like I mentioned, he's 28, so he's not old, but he's not getting younger, and he doesn't fit the timeline as well, right? We always talk about these guys, you know, peaking at the right time. You know, 3-4 years from now, where is this group going to be, right? You think about if we bring D Book in now, 3-4 years from now, he's 32, and you're still paying him max money. And by that time, how good is he going to be defensively?
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're committing that much to a guy who really may be the liability in your starting 5 defensively. So for me, I'm playing a long game. Like, I feel that's the best course of action when you have so much young talent on your team. That's just me.
Yeah, I think at this point, if I'm Trajan Langdon, I'm not just like, this isn't the Boston Celtics. Boston can afford to make deals where they only need to rely on a guy for a season or two. Like anyone who watches football, like the New England Patriots, when they had Tom Brady, they brought in so many guys on 1-year deals and just got rid of them the next year because they knew their future was Tom and everybody else is expendable.
Great point.
The Pistons are not in a position now where they can just bet on a guy that's maybe good for the next year or two. No, you need to be able to bank on somebody for the next year or two and hope they can give you something for the next 5 as well. Like, you don't, like, when you give out contract extensions, you don't pay guys for what they did last season. You pay for what they can do for you in the future as well. So knowing that we haven't seen the absolute best of Jaden Ivey yet, knowing that maybe guys like Devin Booker or even Derek White have possibly capped out at their peak at this point in their career, it's not really worth investing your future when their future is possibly behind them. So it's just not.
Derek White catching all kinds of
I'm sorry, bro. I'm on it. It was a long week on Twitter. Y'all been annoying me. Like, people were making arguments saying that I was calling Ivy better and all this. All right, fine. I'm gonna empty the truck out then. No,
bro, he was licking his chops tonight. I'm dead. Go ahead.
You, like, these guys, again, they're fine players, but we can't definitively say that Derek White is going to be a 25-point scorer in the next 5 years. We just don't see that. We've never seen anything that would indicate that he could be that unless he was just on a hot heater from 3-point land. Like, that's not enough for what you're going to have to do for the Pistons. So
exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You have to be able to invest in whatever their future plans are as well. And I think Trajan has that in the back of his mind.
Yeah. That's why I'm just kind of just letting the days pass as far as the conversation go. I can't wait till, the offseason is over and we start gearing up for, summer league and things like that. And we start to see training camp, we start to see this team rounding into form, and we can stop having these conversations because it's already getting exhausting, bro. And it's just June. So buckle up, everybody. But yeah, I think we've said our piece for sure. I know he definitely said his piece about Derek White. Sheesh.
I ain't even got started yet. We can keep going. Let's go.
Oh man, this boy, man.
Started yet.
Let me try to subtly transition here and see if he don't catch on or not. So let's move to our next topic, bro. Let's talk about. This is an interesting topic too. The Pistons are reportedly interested in adding a stretch big this offseason. You guys probably already saw the report or heard about the report at this point. So according to Marc Stein, NBA insider Marc Stein, the Pistons have shown interest in Myles Turner and Naz Reid ahead of free agency, or a player comparable to that at the 4 or 5. And this is a conversation that we've kind of been having for a while. So those were the two names that really stood out, that were really kind of mentioned in this article. They mentioned, the prototype guy, but those are the two guys they really mentioned. So I wanted to basically show this quick article here and we'll take a look at it. Actually, it was from Twitter, I think. We can just read this together. So, well, this was not it. Let me go back to it. Let's go home. Okay, here we go. So it says the Detroit Pistons are expected to show interest in a stretch big such as Myles Turner or Naz Reid per the Stein line. It says the Pistons are among the teams with interest in Timberwolves big man Reid. League sources say Detroit is known to cover a floor spacing big man and, according to sources, is likewise said to hold interest in Indiana's Myles Turner. Whether the Pistons have a tangible shot at acquiring either player, mind you, is far from clear. So I thought that was very, very interesting, to say the least, bro. Let's just get into some specifics real quick. So Naz Reid made $14 million last year. He has a player option next season for $15 million. I think he's going to decline that. He said after the T-Wolves lost to the Thunder that he is open to returning to the T-Wolves in the bench role, but that he is 100% seeing himself as a starter. So I personally get the vibe that after sitting behind guys like Rudy Gobert, Cat, and now Julius Randle, that he's kind of ready for a bigger role. And I think that as long as he stays in Minnesota, that's not going to happen. Because Gobert and Randle, they make too much money. I think they make $30 million a year. So they pretty much make double what he makes. They're not going to sit making that much money. I just don't see it happening. So signs for me are pointing to him exploring his options this offseason, especially if a good team that has a need for a starting power forward, like the Pistons, makes a call. So I'm going to just say this first. Y'all know how I feel about this. Right? Anybody who's been watching the show for the past year, you know exactly how I feel about this. So, Eric, I'm going to let you kick this off first. Thoughts on the Pistons potentially looking to add Myles Turner or Naz Reid or a player like that this offseason?
Yeah, saw the report tweeted from or regarding to Marc Stein, who's somebody I have a lot of respect for. I do like a lot of the reports he has. He doesn't seem like a guy that just, crashes out with just random information and whatnot. He seems pretty dialed in and plugged in to what teams are doing with their offseason plans. Also, before we get into the players, I also like that we talked about this a little bit before when we were talking about the Pistons, like when Trajan Langdon had his address of the media when the season ended, and he said they wanted to remain patient. Yeah. Just because he said he wanted to remain patient doesn't mean he wanted to bring the entire band back together.
Right.
He said things like when people were bringing up the idea of bringing back Schroeder and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley and Paul Reed. He brought up and said these guys could get different offers from other people. Like, we're keeping ideas and options open. We love what they did, but the idea at the forefront is always to make this franchise better. So it doesn't seem like he's ruling out that possibility, and I love that based on this report.
Right.
Looking at Naz Reid, I think he's an absolute home run perfect fit for this starting lineup. I think, like I said last during the offseason or before the season ended, actually, if there's a timeline where Tobias Harris is moving to the bench for somebody else that's more suitable for your future, I would be fine with that. You know, Tobias is getting a little bit up there in age, played really good last season. I'm really happy that he did a good job of turning, you know, the perception around his name around, but he is still getting a little bit older. And Naz Reid, who's 25 years old, he fits the timeline of the Detroit Pistons, fits that physicality mold, unless he's getting pushed over by Rod Holland. He does
right.
a very good job. Shout out to Rod Holland. He does a good job of playing and embodying the culture that Detroit stands for with his defense as well as his offense. He's not a guy that's greedy with his shot. He does a good job of, you know, embodying the dirty work and doing what is needed for the team. And I just believe he would be a perfect fit to kind of upgrade at that 4 position. He's really good at defending on the perimeter, good at defending down low. You know, tough, strong guy, can create his own jumper, can, you know, play inside as well if he needs to, you know, clean up on the boards when he needs to. He's a do-it-all kind of guy. Exactly. And knowing that you have guys in front of him like Cade, a breaking out player in Jaden Ivey who's shown that he can do more, you know, as Cade's number 2, it's not going to be, you're not going to be looking at him like how Jeremy Grant was when he was brought in, which was a BR everything for now, and we'll figure it out later. Naz Reid just has to kind of fit in where he is in that front court. And I think guys like JD, guys like Isaiah Stewart, guys like Asar, like I think even Tobias, like I think the veterans will help rein him in, you know, help identify what his needs are. And I think he will do a good job of fitting into the roles that the team would need him to play on the court.
Very well said, bro. I mean, I was going to say a lot of what you said, so thank you for saving me the time. You probably said it better than I would have said it. Anyway, so I wanted to get to this. We saw this earlier. We cited this earlier. Shiv God, shout out to you. Said, what up, the fellas? Douche, you called it. I appreciate you. This is what we were talking about earlier in the show, guys. And Vulture, shout out to you too, saying 1,000% he's a great fit. Yeah, man. So we definitely talked about this a while ago. This is what Vulture said. It's crazy how you knew it was going to be Reid so freaking long ago, bro. Yeah. So listen, man. I want to let Eric go first because I had a lot I wanted to say about this particularly. This is music to my ears, bro. Like hearing this is music to my ears. I've been on record on this channel since this time last year, basically, saying that I wanted Naz Reid on this basketball team. And it was watching what I saw in that series against the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs in the conference semis last year, who were then still the defending champion Denver Nuggets. And watching them go down in game 7 on the road, 20 points in the first half, a game that Anthony Edwards did not play well in, mind you. Watching the others, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, right? Those guys, Jaden McDaniels, those DiVincenzo, like watching those guys just play well and play the way they did. It wasn't DiVincenzo, he was with New York, but those guys really stepped up. But the main guy was Naz Reid. He just got it done on both ends, like you just mentioned. And they were able to turn that 20-point deficit into a convincing win on the road in game 7. When I saw how he played, the things he was able to do, the versatility that he had in his team, on that team, it would be and this is before we even had the overhaul of players, the overhaul of the roster. It just seemed like he would fit with JD very, very well.
Right.
The inside-outside game. So I'm just happy to see this finally coming to fruition. It kind of reassures me that I'm not crazy. Just to see them talking about it and showing interest, because he'd be a perfect fit, bro. And before I go any further, I saw somebody mention in the comments about the scuffle. I know a lot of fans are concerned with what took place earlier this year in Minnesota, and I get it. But I want to preface my comments by saying that there are always things, Eric, you know, there are always things that take place, you know, in scuffles or whatever that we may not know about or not. We don't see it. We don't always get the entire story, right, or complete context with these types of incidents. So I want to say that first. But from a basketball standpoint, from my point of view, fights happen. Fights happen. They've always happened. They're always going to continue to be there. And Rick Mahorn, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but Rick Mahorn used to get in fights with the Pistons all the time when he played against the Bullets, or when he played with the Bullets against the Pistons. And a few years later, he's hoisting the trophy with the team in '89, right? He was a big part of that bad boys culture that the Pistons developed. He cried when they let him go due to the expansion draft, right after they won the chip, right? And to this day, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me, Eric, he's at every game at LCA, Little Caesars Arena, still calling the games, doing the radio call.
Yep.
So he's a Piston for life. One more example that I had, Dennis Rodman, who along with Rick Mahorn used to religiously bully, hard foul, cheap shot Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen on that same Bad Boy scene. Remember that play when Pip was falling out of bounds and Dennis helped him get there quicker with that shove in his back and the play was already dead, right into the first row. So the Bulls hated the Pistons. We hated them too. But a few years later, when Robin was available, guess what happened? Phil Jackson goes to MJ and Scottie and asks them if they would like him on his team because he's available. They'd be open to adding him. They both said yes. Because he brought a skill set that they were sorely missing. Yep. They got blasted. I think it was 95. They got blasted by the Orlando Magic in the playoffs. The Bulls had no answer for Horace Grant.
Yep,
right?
I remember that.
Right? So we all know what happened after Rodman got there. You know what I mean? The following year, they swept the Magic in the playoffs en route to their first of 3 championships for a second time. So my point in saying all that is that winning solves a lot.
Yes.
Especially if the price is right. And I just hope if these guys, I hope they can move past it. And I hope it's not anything deeper than what we saw in the court, just a scuffle, no bad blood. They can bury the hatchet and focus on winning. I think that move alone puts us in conference finals contention easily if we're healthy.
I agree. I got a couple more examples. We saw Andre Drummond and Joel Embiid hate each other for years, and they became teammates in Philly a couple years after. I remember when Ron Artest and Kobe used to beef with each other when Artest was with the Rockets. Then he joined the Lakers a year after that. We've even seen Kevin Durant go with his op in Golden State after being with OKC, having a 3-2 or 3-1 lead against him. Facts. So, as long as it's not anything personal, as long as he didn't say anything that crossed lines, which doesn't seem like it did. Yep, going back right to the comment there. There were no punches thrown. It was definitely high energy early in the game. But it didn't seem like it went anything too far. Now, granted, in the NBA now, if you just talk trash or if it gets any kind of little pushing, that's going to be the headline story. We're never going to see a Malice in the Palace again. I don't think so. So just knowing that alone, but granted, I don't think that was enough to maybe deter what Naz's plans are anyway. He wants to get paid and he also wants to win. And I think the Pistons can give him both with a high role, to be included in their future plans. And I think it would fit perfectly for him. Yeah, and like I said, if it's something deeper, then that's, that's off the table. And I would understand that completely. You know what I'm saying? That's why I want to preface by saying that. But just strictly basketball, we've seen these kind of things from our vantage point happen before, from what we can see. And we've seen guys get past it and be extremely successful despite it. You mentioned some great examples that I hadn't even thought about. So it can happen. It's kind of like you respect, if this is just basketball, you can respect guys who are willing to go there. Because it means, it's like Kobe told Matt Barnes, anybody who is crazy enough to F with me, I want on my team. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we've seen it happen before and it work out if it's just on the court. So hopefully it is, and they can really take a look at that, man. And like I mentioned, basketball wise, bro, as far as his fit, because you really hit some good points on his fit. I want Naz more than I want Myles, personally. Because I think both of those guys are really good three-point shooters. But to me, Naz is more mobile and athletic as far as defensively moving his feet. Lateral movement, right? We saw when we played the Knicks, we saw how guys like Cat, gave some of our guys trouble, our big guys trouble because of his foot speed. JD is quick, but Cat's just a weird kind of guy, the way he moves at that size. He's underrated with his foot speed and his movement. But we at times had to throw Tobias at him, right? Even though Tobias is smaller, significantly, laterally, he could stay in front, right? And so guess what, though? We saw the Pacers do the exact same thing with Myles Turner and Pascal Siakam, right? Myles was not quick enough to stay in front of Cat. And the Pacers, they put a smaller Siakam on Cat, even though Pascal was giving up size and Wade Tobias was giving up size. Right. So this is exactly, though, why I want a Naz Reid on the team, because he's, on one hand, strong enough to keep from being out-muscled in the paint by Cat, but he's also athletic enough to stay in front and contest on those threes that he likes to pull from 40 feet. Right. So to me, he's the perfect tweener to guard a guy like Cat, who's also kind of a tweener.
at that position. And so the inside-outside game with him and JD would look a lot better, a much better version of the Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid pairing, especially offensively. So I just like you mentioned, I like what he brings. I feel like he can kind of fill a lot of the holes and weaknesses that we kind of have, not big ones, but just things here and there that really can make us a more complete team. You mentioned his ball handling. He can put pressure, on other bigs by being able to put the ball on the floor and get to the rim and making the right decision out of that. Right? I can see a lot of lobs with him and JD as he's getting to the hoop and JD's right there into the hoop. You know what I mean? I can see a lot of that stuff where K's just watching the play. He can get a blow. You know what I mean? So like things like that are important. And his offensive game encourages ball movement. It encourages, he doesn't hold the ball. It doesn't stick to him. It's not Velcro with him. Right. He moves it. He's either catching and making a dribble to the basket, first dribble, or he's looking to move it. So that's the perfect fit for me with this team. And they will upgrade this team, I think, on both sides of the court.
Yeah, when I saw the report about them wanting a stretch big, I was all for it. I'm like, okay, makes sense. They have a clear plan, and they're seeing a lot what the fans are seeing as well. Myles Turner, I don't really understand at all. Like, great, he's a really good player. I do like, what he brings to Indiana, and he's been a very important focal point piece to their championship run right now. Yeah. But I just don't understand how the minutes break down, because if they didn't have, if the Pistons still had Marvin Bagley instead of Jalen Duren as their starting five, then hey, go get him. That makes sense. Beef Stew is undersized. Yeah. Bags isn't really who we thought he was going to be. Right. Go get him. That's the perfect piece. But knowing that Duren is still here and we're just starting to see him trend upwards defensively and offensively, and knowing what we saw with Beef Stew as well, who moved to that backup five role. He talked so much about how excited he was to get back into that role as a five instead of, masquerading as a stretch four, which he never was, which I said for a while. Yeah. I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for a guy like Myles Turner, just based on what their depth looks like at this point. Like, he's a guy, as you see in any sport, when a guy goes to the finals or wins a ring, they're looking to get paid and for another opportunity. Right. You could maybe get paid here, but I just don't see the opportunity following with that in Detroit. Like, he wants to still be a guy that's looked at as one of the main guys on his roster, and I just don't see that really being a perfect fit for him in Detroit. Again, he's not a 4, he's a 5 full-time for real. Like, I don't see any kind of area where he would make sense to slide over. Like you said, he's a 7-footer. He's not as agile as Naz Reid is. Like, it just doesn't make that much sense based on what the roster structure is like. So if they're going to go get that stretch big, I think Naz is one of the best options. A lot of people are saying in the comments, I think Jabari Smith is a guy that you maybe go fishing for, see how Houston is feeling about him. I just think those athletic fours with a future in front of them, those are the kind of guys you want. Again, we were just talking about it with the other guys. We may have seen the best of Myles Turner at this point in his career. He turns 30, I think, this year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And how much more opportunity he's going to get in an NBA that doesn't necessarily predicate on emphasizing the center position unless you're Nikola Jokic. Yep. How good is he really going to be as your number 1 or number 2 guy moving forward if he does leave Indiana? Yeah. I just don't really see it. Like, even with them now, he's their number 3. So I just don't see that being the kind of opportunity that makes the most sense. You want somebody that can you can build up. You can build up a Naz Reid, let him play his position, and then maybe over the next couple years he turns into something else. Same with Jabari, same with maybe Cam Johnson. Like, those guys still have a little bit of growing room left. I don't know how much more growing room Myles Turner has in his career. Gotcha.
And the interesting thing you mentioned with Myles is that's another reason why I like Naz Reid ahead of him, which is also why I like Naz Reid ahead of Jabari, even though I think Jabari is a good player. You can play Naz at the 4 or 5. He can play with Stu or he can play with JD. It doesn't matter. He slides to the 5 if he needs to, or slides to the 4. It doesn't matter. So that's what I like. Is that you got 2 big men already on this team who like to play inside, right? So, but you also have a guy in Naz who can also do that if he needs to, right? So he's pretty solid. So I don't feel like with a Jabari Smith you can play him at the 5.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. So I just like the size that Naz gives you, and even though he is 6'9", he's got a 7'3" wingspan. Yeah. So he's a lot bigger because of how long he is. His measurables, his wingspan allow him to be able to make up for not being 6'11", 7 feet. Right. So, and I think that's why he's so mobile. He's so mobile because he's not 6'11" to where it looks a little bit lanky. You know what I mean? So he can still get away with being able to be athletic and make moves to the rim and be able to get by his guy and move his feet on defense. So that's why I think he's the perfect tweener as far as what you need, as far as being able to play the 4 or 5 and being flexible and give your team versatility. So, but I definitely agree with you, bro. I definitely think this is going to be an interesting offseason, and I just can't wait to see what happens next. I can't, where there's smoke, there's always fire. I want to see how much really smoke is with this one, because a lot of times when trades happen, they happen without there really being any notice of it. It just kind of pops up. So I hope this isn't one of those, and This is actually something that has legs to it. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, if there was anybody else, like we talking about stretch bigs, we talked a lot about the Celtics and the availability of what they're going to be doing, because they're in a position where they're going to have to break down some pieces and let some guys go. If I'm not mistaken, he's an unrestricted free agent. Al Horford is an unrestricted free agent at this point. I feel like if there's a guy that I wouldn't mind seeing them go after, who may not, again, is not a huge focal point guy for the future for them, but somebody like Al Horford, I wouldn't mind them going to get a guy like that too if you're going to get a stretch big. He's a guy that can defend, a veteran. He can help the young guys with a lot of their maturation and their development. I think bringing in those kind of guys did wonders for the core, as we saw. And I think he would be another one that would help, especially with guys like JD and even Stu. I mean, Stu didn't have a lot of fouls and issues like that the way Jalen Duren did. But I think he's somebody that can help him, especially when Horford has really excelled even later in his career in defending on the perimeter. I really want to see Duren take that next step in his development, because I think he's quick enough, he's rangy enough, but he still kind of gets his hands caught and his body in positions where they still call him for fouls. So that would be another guy I wouldn't mind them taking a look at if for the cheap, and if you can't go get a guy like Naz because it costs too much money or something like that, those would be some of the cheaper end options I wouldn't mind them taking a look at either.
It's funny you say that, because I've made comparisons with Horford to Stu as far as how they play the game. A big who can guard 1 through 5, who can knock down a 3, who plays really sound defense, isn't the most athletic big, but plays very smart and effective. So it's interesting. Yeah, it makes sense that you say you want that kind of guy, because that's the kind of guy I see in Stu. So another guy like that on this team who has a championship experience, yeah, I'm all for that. Definitely. Definitely, for sure. Let's move to the NBA Finals, bro. We have an NBA Finals finally. After, I don't know how many people saw this finals coming from the start of the playoffs as far as the Thunder and the Pacers. I know I didn't. If I'm being real, I didn't think we would see this finals. I thought we would see the Thunder possibly, but I didn't see the Pacers getting this far. But with that being said, if anybody remembers, I said back before the playoffs even started that I did think that they were the team that I didn't want to play in the first round. I know you were saying you wanted the Knicks, Eric, and I think we were saying so for similar reasons and different reasons. And the reason I say that, bro, is there was one game earlier this season. I think it was a game when Stu was talking about Myles Turner playing with Legos. That game, the You Play with Legos game. But that game was one of the few times that I said to myself, yeah, that team is ahead of us right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? They just looked more connected, largely in part because they've been together longer. They've had more time to build. Some of the Pistons have not had yet. But just the way they played the game, bro, the ball was moving. They weren't turning it over a lot. They had weapons over everywhere. They had player movement, ball movement, and they just continued to execute over and over and over again. You know what I mean? And I think that's something you need in the playoffs when the game slows down and you have to create offense in the half court. So from that point on, I knew there was going to be a problem because they kind of had a late blooming season. They came on late. They started off slow, like the T-Wolves, similar situation. But once you saw them rounding the form, it was like, yeah, they're going to be a problem. Yep. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. They were really peaking towards the end of the year, just after the All-Star break. Halliburton didn't have the best start to the season, but at this point now with how he's playing, he's been one of the best point guards in the NBA. Right. And then looking at the depth that they have with guys like Nesmith, Nembhard, Mathurin, having some spot plays for him. Obviously, Myles Turner playing as good as he is. Yeah. And then someone said in the comments earlier, I was watching and saw it, Tobias played really good defense all season, but one person he couldn't do a thing with was Pascal Siakam.
Exactly.
He couldn't do a thing with him. He was all over the place, lost, trying to stay in front of Crash Bandicoot. He was putting him in a blender with a lot of his moves. Siakam's a very, very underrated basketball player. I really like the way he plays. He just fits them perfectly. I love when those disgruntled pieces are ready to move on to somewhere else and they go to that perfect place. I think Indiana was so spot on and perfect for his game to go to. It takes a little pressure off of Halliburton because I don't ever think he's going to be the guy that's averaging 25 to 30 a game. I just don't think that's how he plays. And they don't really need him to at this point, especially if Siakam is going to keep playing at this kind of level offensively. Based on this matchup, I don't know. I'm not ruling Indiana out. I think this could go 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
I like OKC outside of their flopping and some of the antics that they pull off, but I don't know. I wouldn't rule out the way that Indiana is playing right now. I think defensively they play very smart basketball, and yeah, they looking at the Pistons. Yes, the storyline was great. We know the history and all that, but the way Indiana was playing, they're just a better team right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. They should be the embodiment that the Pistons want to look forward to moving into the future.
Yes. Side note, I got some interesting comments here. Ivy was the only time, Michael Hustler says, was the only time the Pistons beat the Pacers. Let that sink in. And Ray Floyd says Ivy beat the Pacers by himself.
Yep, when they were playing the in-season tournament. That's right.
Right? So I'm just saying, just keep it in mind. But you mentioned a little bit your prediction. We're going to get into the predictions in a minute. But definitely, so here's what I think, bro. I think when you mentioned the Pacers are pretty much where the Pistons are trying to get to, I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. I think time just has to catch up with that. I think that's the only thing really in their way.
Yep.
But I think, I could be wrong, but I'm getting the vibes that this Pistons-Pacers rivalry may be restored as early as next season. Officially. I don't know why. I just feel like both teams are going to be at the top of the conference. And I think there's going to be some pride there. Not saying anything is going to happen, but I just think we're going to see that rivalry return as early as next year. I really do see that. And I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be transparent. I think one advantage that the Pacers have right now is that all their starters can stretch. Right? If you include Myles as of right now, right? They can all spread the floor 1 to 5.
Yep.
And they love to get out in transition. Pistons do too, but they have weapons from deep everywhere, and the Pistons don't currently have that. So, for my real hoop heads, if anybody's seen the movie Glory Road, basketball movie with Derek Luke, you remember this. Derek Luke's character said to his coach, he said, "We can't beat them at their game.
Yeah.
If you let us loose and let us play our game, we may have a chance."
Yeah.
And they came back and won the game. So, true story. So the Pistons, I kind of see that with them. Like when it comes to, I think how the Pistons could potentially overtake the Pacers, I think they need to lean into their style, right? Lean into how they play. The Pistons don't have shooters everywhere, right? But they do have a better defense.
Right.
So I think playing their style, that physical play, the tough play, being opportunistic in transition, right? Not trying to run a break off a May basket. You know what I mean? Like not trying to do that, not trying to out-game them at their own game, but just focusing on playing with a focus to improve your half-court offense, your execution, cutting down your turnovers, which is how you get in trouble with them, right? So that was a problem last year. Turnovers were a problem last season for this team. And against the Pacers, you're going to pay every time. So for me, like developing things like that, developing the chemistry, making teams uncomfortable with their physicality, creating points off turnovers, and then doing it 1 through 12. 1 through 10, right? To me, that's the pathway for them to be able to compete and dethrone the Eastern Conference champion like the Pacers going into the next season. What are your thoughts on all that? And then what are your thoughts separate from that?
Yeah, JB talked a lot about that too. He always mentioned how like the league is obviously, a 3-point shooting league where defense isn't emphasized the way it used to be and the bigs aren't used like they used to be. But he always said, we're going to play our style and our brand of basketball. They didn't do what Boston did, which was chasing a style and shoot a million threes, and it basically cost them when they played against the Knicks.
Yeah.
The Pistons were able to get stops. They were able to slow down the game methodically and hunt out their shots the way they wanted them to be. Instead of playing, we're down 10, we're down 15. All right, well, we got to shoot as many threes as we can because the analytics says that makes the most sense. Like, right. I think JB and like the floor generalship of Cade Cunningham has, helped establish their ability to be a half-court team
Mm-hmm.
that can demoralize you with the lob from Duren, or a quick pick and roll action with Cade and he finds Beasley on his own action, or something different, or Ivy isoing or whatever from the top of the key, finding his own space, getting to the hoop with his speed.
Yep.
They didn't have to just lean on the 3-point shot.
Yep.
And I think that's what makes their style and their brand of basketball so refreshing for the NBA, because we don't see a lot of that, at least in terms of versatility from how teams play.
Yeah.
If I were to predict what's going to happen, oh man.
I will say this, watching Cade and Hallie going forward is going to be fun.
Yeah.
That is going to be cinema.
Yeah. And
I am looking forward to that.
I still think Cade is better than Hallie. I think if Cade were on the Pacers right now, they wouldn't miss a beat. In fact, they might have already beat the Knicks based on how they play and by how good and how big Cade plays as a big point guard. I'm gonna go. I might change my mind. I'm gonna go.
Spit it out.
I'm gonna go Pacers. I'm gonna go Pacers in 7. I don't know. It's something that makes me like, I just like the way they play. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They're very good at getting shots. They don't really make a whole lot of mistakes in their half court sets. They make their, opponents pay, and they're never out of the game either. Like when we've seen OKC get blown out and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the Pacers down 20, 25 points to the Knicks, and they were able to come back and make things happen. So I don't know. I just like the way they're playing. I think they were gelling at the right amount of time right now. They're still healthy. And I don't know. I just think they're too deep right now. I like the way the Pacers are playing, and I'm going to go ahead and get with the Pacers in 7.
Wow. Pacers in 7.
Yeah.
That is okay. Listen, I'm not mad at you, bro, because I feel like it's going to be a very competitive series, bro. I think it's going to be more competitive than people think. Yeah. I've seen a lot of OKC in 5. I'm like, nah, I don't see that. I feel like a lot of people just still haven't really been paying attention to the Pacers yet. The same way a lot of people weren't paying attention to the Thunder, and until recently, even myself included, to how the level of how good they are. But for me, bro, like watching them this year in the playoffs showed me a lot. Mm-hmm. It showed me a lot, man, because we've seen early in the season, we always talk about regular season teams, things like that, and I didn't know if they were that, or if they were more than that, until I saw them in the playoffs this year. When I saw them play Denver, because we've seen OKC in the regular season blow teams away by 20, 30 consistently, and the game isn't even in question. Right. There's no crunch time. Game's over in the third quarter. But I wanted to see how they were performing as a young team in late game situations. And watching them against a champion, the 3-time MVP, and champions all around him, and to watch them out execute them the way they did on the road, I was just watching how under control they were, and they just continued to play their game. And the depth is what killed the Nuggets. The depth is what killed the T-Wolves, and they did the same thing against the T-Wolves. Late in games, it wasn't like the T-Wolves weren't playing well in certain games. It was just that the OKC Thunder were just playing better. It was just like they had an answer every time, whether it was a turnover or whether it was getting a stop or whether it was coming down and hitting a shot.
Right.
And I feel like they're just so overwhelming, bro. They just have so many. I think the Pacers and the Thunder like to do a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
They take care of the ball. They've got a star player who they play around. They both like to run. They both like to turn you over. They both can put you away quickly if you're not careful. Right. In a 3-minute span, you can be down 5 to down 20. It really, they can knock you out. I just feel like the Thunder have more guys that play that. They just have more guys. I think when Hallie sits down, it's more impactful than when Shea sits down. Because you still got Jalen Williams and Chet that you're comfortable with. You can say Pascal, but after Pascal, it's like, who can I confidently bank on being able to get me something when Hallie sits down? Miles, Aaron, Nembhard, you know what I mean? I think with the Thunder, you got more confidence in those other two. That's just me. What are your thoughts? Hit me with something. What you got?
I hate this guy, but I think TJ McConnell is a piston killer.
He's a beast.
And I think he suits perfect for the guys that you're questioning for right now.
Okay.
So even if Yeah, like Nembhard may not be the guy, Neesmith might not be the guy, or we don't know what Benedict Mather may look in these kind of games. But I think the leadership and the floor general penmanship of a guy like TJ McConnell is good enough to set them up in their spots to make sure they don't have to just run around and create on their own. I also think the Pacers have enough guys that they could throw at SGA, where I don't necessarily know if the Thunder have enough defensive options to slow down the firepower of the Pacers. Like,
you don't think so?
I don't know, man. I feel like
I feel like you could throw Case and Wallace on McConnell and go and take a nap. I think he's going. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Go ahead. I'm gonna cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you good. I just think, like, to me, where I'm thinking about it, I think the battle's gonna be won in the front court. Like, I think Halliburton's gonna get his, SGA is gonna get his. He's gonna live at the free throw line. But to me, I'm curious to see how Chet matches up against Siakam. I'm interested to see, what Nembhard and the other bigs of OKC do with Miles Turner and some of the depth that they have in their front court. I just feel like they're a little bit more. They're a little bit more hungry than me, and I feel like the way that their style of play is, at least in the front court, to me, is going to be the biggest deciding factor. If they can stay out of foul trouble and Chet is giving you 20 and 10 and protecting the rim, then yeah, I like OKC's chances. But I don't know. I've just been so impressed with Siakam and how he's been playing. I think he's going to be a huge problem for them in that front court.
Bro, let's not forget what he did in Toronto. Right, Kawhi gets all the praise, but Siakam was that dude. You knew if he had a bigger role like he does now, he'd be doing what he's doing now. So I 100% agree with you, and I think that may be a factor. I gotta tell you, man, Chet has been continuing to not prove me wrong, but impress, bro. Like he gave Naz Reid some trouble. I have to say, because of his length and athleticism and just talent. Go ahead. What's up?
Do you remember when we were on the channel we were on, and Sean Murphy was the only one that was writing for Chet, and we were all just like, man, Chet ain't gonna be all that. Sean been on his victory lap.
Shout out to Sean, bro. Shout out to Sean, because Amber King was like, man, I'm putting him in the gym and giving him cheeseburgers until he put on 15 pounds. Like, I remember that conversation vividly.
Facts.
And I was like fade to black, just letting him go, right? But I didn't know either if he was going to be what he is. It was kind of like with the KD situation, where is he big enough? He can't bench any more than 130, 140. He's going to get beat up in the paint, all these different things. And Chet actually plays more in the paint than KD.
Facts.
But he's still, go ahead.
No, I was going to say off of injury too. No, keep going.
Off of injury, but he's still cooking, bro. Like he's consistently doing it all.
Yes.
His three ball, his defense in the paint, bro. The way he alters shots in the paint. Like, I'm like, this dude, man.
Yeah. I'll give it up to him.
So shout out to Sean, because he hit that dead on for sure.
Yeah, he's one of their biggest X factors. Again, I'll give him all the credit in the world. He has been way better, way quicker than I thought he was.
Yeah,
I thought there was a chance where, because there was a lot of those, like in those picks, like from Orlando, it was Houston, and then OKC. Like we thought any of those three, no matter who they went to, it would make sense. OKC's a perfect spot for him, and he's impressed me way faster than I thought he would. So. Bro. If he's eating and giving them 20 and 10 and playing good defense, it could be a long night for
Siakam. Yeah, like I feel like he can guard Siakam. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like he's quick enough, he's long enough. I feel like he's just a bigger version in a sense, maybe of not. I don't know if he's as good as Siakam yet, but I think he's coming.
Yeah,
I think he's coming.
Yeah, for sure.
Just his measurables and his talent, I think he's on the way.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I see some of you guys here saying you want to check, but I want to say real quick, and I'm gonna get to you.
Go ahead.
This is exactly why you mentioned injuries with Chet. The injuries. People thought he was done. People thought he's never going to be able to adapt and recover and play this level. Jay Ivey, injuries. Like injuries are important, man. Like they play a huge factor. Chet was injured a big portion of this season.
Yep.
I think he was out for a while. He came back, I think, 6 months ago and had a slow start, but he got the reps. He had the time. He was good. And you see when he's healthy what he can do. That's all. I wanted to circle back to that Jaden topic again, because it's like, had he not gotten hurt, we wouldn't be having this conversation, bro, with these different trades. I think we would see a much different version, or just an extended version of his trajectory had he been healthy. So I just want to just highlight that and give Chet his credit, because the injuries did play a big part as to why we weren't talking about him. And they're a big part of why we are now talking about him, because he's healthy.
Yeah, he gets lost in a lot of the discussions with that draft class. I still think he can, be the second best player in that draft class. I think I love Paolo Banchero. I think he is a superstar in the making, but I don't think Ivy is much further away from that next tier in that class. I think if he was to stay healthy, he was already on track to be one of the leading names for most improved player. And I don't think he was going to be slowed down until that injury unfortunately hit him. But last thing I want to say on that is the NBA needs this. I don't care what none of y'all say on social media. I see it. Oh, we didn't sign up for this. And oh, maybe we do these super teams and a villain. No, you don't. You just need two good basketball teams that want to win. That's all you need, bro. If the league don't want to promote them, that's a shame on them. If the medias who are reporting on this series aren't going to take responsibility to do what they need to do, that's a shame on them. These are two fantastic basketball teams. Just because their storylines aren't sexy enough does not mean this isn't going to be a great series. This would have been better than seeing LeBron, in LA, getting mopped up, by the Pacers.
Careful.
I know. I'm sorry. I gotta hold out for King a little bit on this side. But I'm just not for it. We didn't need the Warriors. We didn't need LeBron again. We didn't need KD again.
I agree with you.
This is fresh and good for the league. Having that unpredictable March Madness feel is fantastic for the NBA. And it gives these, as Gilbert Arenas puts it, these low market teams, putting them in these kind of forefront positions shows how great the league can be and how much talent there is on every team that you look at. I'm so happy it shook out with these two teams. Even though I don't like the Pacers and I don't like SJ's, foul baiting and flopping and whatnot, I do like that it's two fresh young teams that are trying to establish themselves, especially in conversations where we're talking about who the new face of the league can be and who the new guys are. Now is the time to kick in a new door, and I'm all here for it, man.
Man, I totally agree because I feel like this series is going to come down to execution. Whoever can execute better. And these are two high-level executing teams.
Great coaching.
Go ahead. Great coaching. And two teams that take care of basketball. But two teams that are also good at turning you over. That's what I want to see. Who is going to win that battle? Because these teams are not really turnover happy.
Right.
And they both also turn you over. So I want to see if there's going to be somebody who can impose their will defensively as far as making the other team uncomfortable because they both take care of the ball. That is what I want to see. Maybe more than anything else is just watching the execution part of it and watching the adjustments that coach makes. You know what I mean? Just seeing how it's going to be, I hope we get 7 games, bro. I hope we get 7 games. I hope it's a dogfight, but I'm going to say I have the Thunder in 7.
Okay.
I think it's going the distance, bro. I agree. I think these two teams they match up with each other well. I don't really see any glaring weaknesses at any of the positions. A lot of these guys at these positions kind of mirror each other as far as their role for these teams. So I can't wait, bro. I cannot wait, man. It's going to be fun to see. And real quick, shout out to Rick Carlisle, man. Shout out to Rick Carlisle. Leading yet another team to not only the Eastern Conference Finals, but the NBA Finals again. I got a question for you. I got a question. I'm gonna ask it. I'm trying to figure out if I want to ask this or not, but I'm gonna ask it. Okay. Do you think? Don't want to ask it. Okay, I'm gonna ask it. Do you think it's possible, and not to get too far off course, we're talking about Rick Carlisle. Do you think it's possible that the Pistons may have moved on from him too soon?
I mean, you can make the argument for sure. He wasn't bad at all with the Pistons when he was there. He helped resurrect them from where they were, just getting out of the Teal days. Joe Dumars assembling a really good collection of talent just before Sheed got there. Coached up great guys like Mehmet Okur, even Zeljko Rabracha, a lot of old school guys. If you know, if you was back in that day, I'm 35. I remember that vividly.
Facts. 38.
You can make the argument for sure. Obviously, Larry Brown, he's one-on-one. He's a guy that, fit that culture for what they needed. It's not like the Pistons were just a bunch of young guys that were trying to establish themselves. They weren't old either, but they were more of a veteran proven team. Chauncey was a little older. Rip was, pretty experienced at that point. And obviously, they had with Ben, Rashid, and then the bench as well. Tayshaun was the young buck of that team.
Right.
And Larry Brown was just better suited with those kind of guys. So who knows? I mean, I wouldn't rule out that they still could have gotten to the finals. I just think, maybe Larry was more suited to keep them motivated for a team they were seeing like the Lakers. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe it was too much for Carlisle just hitting into that spot for the first time. Larry Brown already had finals experience getting there with the Sixers and AI.
Really?
So, maybe he had that hunger and it was just a little bit more suited for him to get there. But it's not a bad question at all.
Okay.
I understand for real.
Oh, yeah. There's no right or wrong answer, bro. I'm just thinking, because I'm really just watching how we just talked about how, the Pacers play a style of ball. The Pistons, should want to get to that same level. And you look at who the coach is and look who used to coach here.
Right.
So, and what I'm about to say has nothing to do with Coach Bickerstaff, who I think is the perfect coach for this team, especially right now. So it's not even about him. But just when I think back to when the Pistons were ascending in the early 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Carlisle his first job was actually with the Pistons in 2002. That was his first job, head coaching job.
Yep.
And he, like you mentioned, he led the Pistons to the Eastern Conference Finals. They won 50 games both years. And in year 2, he took them to the conference finals against the Nets. And they got swept by the Nets. And that was the year he was fired after that. But he immediately got hired by the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
And he immediately took them to the conference finals against us.
Yep.
And in 2005, had Malice at the Palace not happened, when they added Steven Jackson and didn't lose anybody, I don't know. Who knows what would happen? Who knows what happened? So I'm just looking at him, right? And I'm just seeing him now. After that, he fast forward to 2011, took that team, the Dallas Mavericks, to a championship, beating my Miami Heat, LeBron James, beating them. Hurts to say, even to this day, they beat them. His game plan for that team was incredible. Just watching it, it was incredible.
Yep.
Led them to a championship. And now here he is again, bro. Back in Indiana, going to the conference finals again for his fifth time in his career with 3 different teams, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just like, man, looking at the long game, like everywhere he's been successful. It's been success for him everywhere he's been. So I'm just thinking about it. Like, what would have happened if he was here from 2002 to 2008? When Flip, because you think about Larry Brown, right? Larry Brown is a legendary Hall of Fame coach.
Mm-hmm.
But with Larry Brown, one thing that I've read about him and noticed about him is that he's a teacher.
Yeah.
He's a teacher. Like when he feels like he can't really help you, when he feels like you're good, you're ready to leave the nest, he's like, all right, what's next?
Right.
That's why he was only here 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I think a guy like Rick Carlisle, you got a shot to win multiple championships. Because when Flip was our coach, rest in peace, Flip, as good as the coach he was an offensive coach.
Yeah. It
changed our identity as far as how we had to play. We didn't have a chance against the Celtics. That's it. You know what I mean? So like,
right.
That's kind of what I'm just thinking about. There isn't a right or wrong answer. I'm just thinking because I'm looking at what Carlisle's doing. Everywhere he's been successful. Like he's gotten it done. So I'm just like, did we move off him too early? We got the chip, Larry Brown. Love you, appreciate you. You help those guys get to a level of evolution that most didn't see. I just feel like we could have got more. That just irks me, bro. I always feel like we should have had at least 2.
Yeah, that's always sticking the craw of Piston fans. Knowing they were there in 2004, knowing they had him in 2005, and like kind of knowing some things like obviously like him and Mehmet Okur didn't see eye to eye.
Yeah,
he wasn't really tight with a lot of young players. Like that was just a lot of things that we knew about Larry Brown's coaching style. Obviously when you win a ring, it doesn't really matter. But if your focus is on the future, like you said, especially knowing how they kind of, tipped down after with, Flip Saunders and the other coaches they brought in after, it was definitely not a pretty sight. But fortunately, based on what they were looking at with that team, the issue was not coaching. It was the front office, the roster construction. Like it was a lot of different issues. And you could be right. I mean, hey, if they were able to, take care of LeBron and your team and your guys then at that point, maybe he could have been built up to push on for the future. You never know. Maybe he just needed that to get himself going. Who knows? Man,
I'm always playing the what if game. And I probably shouldn't, to my own detriment. But it just kills me sometimes, bro. But yeah, I definitely think, you make a good case for both ways. I agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. One more thing, bro, I wanted to kind of get to was I'm looking at the construction of these teams that are left in the playoffs or that were left in the playoffs. We got 2 now.
Yeah.
But just looking at the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals and just looking how those teams are put together, and just kind of, learning and seeing what you could kind of grab from that, what you can kind of derive from how those teams are kind of constructed. And one thing that stood out to me was the three. That three position. You look at the four teams that were left in the playoffs before the last two were eliminated from the conference finals. You look at the T-Wolves, Jaden McDaniels. You look at Lou Dort for the Thunder. You look at Mikal Bridges for the Knicks. You look at Aaron Naismith for the Pacers. All those guys can spread the floor.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Asar is one of the most important players on the Detroit Pistons.
Yep.
Easily. Backbone of the defense. Covers so many mistakes. And you could see just his raw ability in he doesn't have a ceiling, bro. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous as far as just what he already can do. He's still learning the game, and you see already how good he can be. I just really want to see him get to just get to 30% or somewhere close to 30% next year from three, or even not even threes, because Jaden McDaniels doesn't always shoot threes. Sometimes he's at that in the mid range. You know what I mean? So just start there and work your way out. Just be a threat. Don't hesitate to shoot the ball. One thing our last guest, Ron Holland's trainer, Charles Hill, said was that, with Ron, it's always about taking the shot. Because if you don't take it, you're not going to have the confidence to take it next time when it's available. So I think with I really just want to see Asar be able to develop a jump shot, a respectable jump shot that he's comfortable with and that he's respecting others to defend him with. Because I'm so excited for his game, man. If he can just get to a respectable percentage, even in the mid-range, just making people guard you, I think that's going to make him a phenomenal very quickly.
Yeah, I want to be respectful when I say this because I like Asar as well.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about Jaden Ivey on the show. Me and you talk about him a lot off the mic as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are so certain of Asar already, while there's so many questions about Ivey's game.
I don't get it.
I don't understand that at all. And again, I'm not saying he can't get there. I don't think Asar is broken with his offensive game. Really good passer, sees the floor well, good anticipation, unbelievable athleticism. I watched that play on a repeat of that spin move he hit on the Knicks where he laid it up left-handed. He's a fantastic, prospect player that is going to suit the Pistons well.
Yeah.
But his deficiencies are way more glaring than Jaden Ivey's are right now at this point. And I agree with you 100%. I really want to see him find some kind of comfort with his own, even if it's not a three-point shot. If it's your ability to find some comfort in the mid-range, maybe you just get to the rack well and your free throw shooting goes up just because you're drawing contact at a high rate.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's going to work for this team. But I don't know. I just see a lot more assurance and just confidence in Asar already, knowing that his deficiencies are so off right now, offensively specifically. Defensively, yeah, it's all there. Great rim protector, very helpful on the rebounding glass, offensive and defensive, covers everywhere defensively for sure.
Yep.
But it's so many areas that he needs to improve on offensively, so much to the point where I even still believe at this point right now, maybe if y'all disagree, it's cool. I don't really care. I kind of think Ron Holland has a higher ceiling right now, just a little bit, just because he's not scared on either side right now. We've seen Asar turn shots down.
Bro.
We've seen teams just leave him. Oh, you shoot it? Cool, we'll live with it. That's not a good sign. You don't want that from your opposition. And Ron doesn't command that. Ivy doesn't command that. Asar has to be able to turn that around as soon as this season with some kind of offensive improvement, because he's, to me, one of the biggest X factor key guys that can change a lot in terms of where the Pistons trajectory goes.
I 100% agree. That's a really good point, bro. One of the things that I think I heard in response to that is just he's so good defensively that it doesn't matter. And you can't really think that way, because there's so many games where he's great defensively, but offensively he's kind of just offsetting. It's just really offsetting. It's not really as if it's a positive. Makes a lot of great plays, but we need two-way players and consistent two-way players who can get the job done. And that's the great point about Jaden Ivey, as far as how I always say this. He and Cade are before we got shorter, we're the only two guys who can create offense for others and for themselves.
Right.
That's why when Jaden went down, Cade was playing 40 minutes because he was the only guy. They tried with Beads. He's not a point guard. He can make plays, but he's not a point guard. That's why he had to go get Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder probably isn't here if Jaden doesn't go down.
Facts.
If you look at how K was getting run into the ground, and immediately after that we had Schroeder, that's why.
Yep.
Because they recognize I was checking the box scores. 42 minutes, 43 minutes, 41 minutes. Like no, this is not gonna work. This ain't gonna work when Jaden went down. You just can't do that. So I 100% agree, bro, that to me, Jaden's game is more complete. And with Ron's game, I said this about a month ago with King. And by the way, shout out to King. King is here in the chat, guys.
What up, King?
I think he is currently on daddy duty right now. He just had a new baby, Onyx. Shout out to Onyx, baby boy. But he has his priorities in order. So we're gonna leave him alone just for tonight. Next show is on site. But that Ron, anyway. So, but getting back to what I was saying, bro, I just really feel like Ron. I don't know if I say he has a higher ceiling yet, but I feel like Ron is more complete. He's definitely more complete. Because, like, for example, Asar's athleticism is just off the charts. It don't make sense. It's just ridiculous. It's just otherworldly. It's crazy.
Maybe more balance is the term.
Balance. Yeah, I feel like he's a more complete, balanced player to where more so in the lane of a Jaden, even though they don't play the same way or position, as far as not having glaring weaknesses, right? I feel like Ron still has to work on that jump shot. Definitely got to work on the jump shot and has to improve it, but it's not a confident. I'm more confident in Ron developing a consistent three ball than Asar right now.
Right.
Just because of the confidence that Ron has. Just talking to his, to his development coach and consultant, Charles, a couple weeks ago, he was saying that. He was saying Ron has never lacked for confidence. Mm-hmm. That's never been the issue with him. He's always going to get shots up. When you saw early in the season, the box score, early in the year when he wasn't shooting well, 0 for 4, 0 for 5, 1 for 5. Like, he was getting them up. They weren't going in, but he was still getting them up. So the confidence piece never is a problem. But we've seen Asar at times hesitate when it's available or, try to barrel his way to the hoop and his defender's just waiting for him. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen a lot of those things. So I think Ron is the more complete player. Who knows how it's going to pan out? But I think for what the Pistons need, I think Ron is more that Aaron Naismith-esque type of guy as far as being able to stretch. He may not be the shooter that he is.
Right.
Or a Lou Dort type of guy that is going to give you the defense, but also can spread the floor consistently for you when you need it and be reliable.
Yeah, I think even with Asar's defense, like, spectacular. We all know that, but we also have seen what the issues are with his game defensively. So if he can't be on the floor, we can't see that growth offensively. And what did we see a lot of the playoffs? Foul trouble. He had his welcome to the NBA moment against Brunson. Like, there were some spots. I know there's some people are going to give you his advanced numbers or whatnot. He was getting tossed off of the floor because he couldn't stay out of foul trouble against Jalen Brunson. That's just a fact. Like, yes, there were some spots and numbers where when he guarded Brunson, he was the better player. He limited him to this. And yes, that was in some games or in some areas. That wasn't the consistent story all series.
Gotcha.
I was always wondering, like, when we were ever going to see if Asar would have like a welcome to the NBA moment. Like, I remember Cade's rookie year when I think DeRozan took him to school in a game where he just backed him down when I think it was in Chicago, and Cade just couldn't do nothing with him.
Yeah,
and
happens.
We hadn't seen that from Asar yet until the playoffs got here.
Right.
And like that physical style that he plays where he's reaching a lot, he picks up full court, but a guy like Brunson, you got to sag off a little bit, knowing that he's going to try to manipulate that to his advantage.
Yeah.
He's got to be able to think 2 steps ahead in defending the elite level guys like that, because that's where they're thinking. They're not just thinking, okay, how can I just blow by you and score? No, they're going to think, how can we put more fouls on you,
right.
Get you flustered, get you confused and in trouble, and get you off the court in the same time.
Yeah.
So there are areas still in his game that need a lot of development. I don't think he's a finished product yet.
No.
People already saying he deserves a max deal. Like, guys, let's relax. Like, he's not there yet. He can get there. Like, there's guys that are a lot of projections where we believe they can get there. We're high on these players too.
Absolutely.
But what they are right now is not what some people are acting like. And I think we just need to see a little bit more from Asar.
I agree. Yeah, I think all these guys, you can make that argument that we would want to see more. And I think that's going to be a blessing in disguise for this team long term. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to give Asar credit. I'm not, and I know you're not discrediting him, but I want to make sure nobody thinks that.
Right.
But this is Asar's first time in the playoff setting, like a lot of these guys, as far as playing the same guy every night. Looking at watching him make adjustments against you, and then mid game trying to figure out how to make adjustments against him. Like, it's a lot of new things. And then Brunson's been cooking everybody, bro. Like, he's been cooking a lot. And, we saw Nimhard really give him trouble late in the last series, but he's a good player, a good defender. But he's been cooking a lot of guys this year. He was cooking Boston. You know, he was really getting whatever he wanted. But we're just talking about the just the discipline part. It's kind of what I feel like with Asar. Like if he gets the discipline part and he's able to be on the floor, we talk about JD early in the season not being able to stay in the court. 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes, and you got to sit down. Exactly. Right? Like those types of things at Asar's position is what we're talking about. Yep. That's pretty much it as far as the defense. Offensively, we hope we can get there to a respectable point. But I agree. Like a lot of these guys, I don't think it should be a guarantee that he's getting max or he's getting max. And honestly, I feel like from a GM perspective, not a player perspective, obviously, but a GM perspective and a team perspective and maybe a fan perspective, that the things that have happened with this team, like Jaden's injury, Asar's blood clot, JD's slow start, these, Cade having the injuries he did, but Cade's already signed. But just the other guys, I think those things can be a blessing in disguise when it comes to being able to keep some of these guys for maybe longer, because you didn't have to sign them to max extensions, maybe perhaps because of those things happening. Like think about the Golden State Warriors, the strength in numbers Golden State Warriors in 2015, 2014, when you saw, Clay and Steph really becoming the Splash Brothers, right? When they're coming into their own. But they had 1 through 10, once again, a deep team, right? That's what started the run. It was a strength in numbers mantra. They had guys you could just throw in and be effective. And I think a big part of that is because, they had guys they could put around Steph. Right. But why did they have guys they could put around Steph? Because there was a point in time when people thought Steph may not be able to survive in the NBA because he kept getting injured, his ankles. He kept turning his ankle every other year. And once again, injuries played a factor in what nobody thought Steph would be this when that was going on. Right. Nobody did. But the injuries showed you how it could derail him. Fortunately, he got past it. But because of that situation, the Warriors were able to go and get a bunch of guys because they didn't have to sign Steph to that super max extension. Right. Because of those injuries. And it worked out for them to be able to have. So I'm just looking at this situation here with our team, the blood clot, and I'm looking at Jaden's injury, all unfortunate things in the as of right now in the present. But I'm thinking long term, it may allow us to be able to, because of situations, keep these guys longer because we're not having to dish out max money here, max money there to go along with Cade's max money. I think it may work out in a situation to where we can kind of keep guys for longer than we think because of the unfortunate things that happened earlier on the rookie deals. Just a thought, just putting it out there.
No, you're 100% right, because those guys weren't sitting out there, trying to crash out and blow up their rotation for Derek White-esque players. They were able to just bring in Sean Livingston and bring in Zaza Pachulia and Barbosa and simple guys like that. Bogut. Harrison Barnes helped do his deal. Yeah, Bogut. You didn't say, oh my God, there's this unbelievable player down here in Boston we just have to have. Oh my God, what is it? Is it a Lamborghini? Nah, it's a Honda Civic that's got 20s on it. Bro, shut up. Stop it. Stop it. I'm crashing out on Derek White every chance I get. No, I don't want to hear nothing else about Derek White for the rest of the offseason. Let him go to Atlanta. Let him go to Charlotte. Let him go anywhere else. I don't want to hear nothing else about Derek White, bro. I don't want to hear it. Do I have y'all attention now?
I was going to say, in case y'all understand, bro.
God,
bro. Sheesh. I didn't realize you had so much disdain for Derek White, bro.
I've been hearing it all week, bro. Like talking about this dude like he's the second coming or something. It's Derek White.
I know,
Stop it, bro.
I know, bro. It's wild. It's wild, man. But no, I totally agree with you on that. Yeah, I think he's officially done, y'all, with Derek White. You got anything left in the tank on Derek White? You done? You good?
I'll chill for now.
You chill for now?
I'll relax for now.
He's going to have 3 or 4 topics next episode, y'all. Don't worry. He's definitely going to have that covered.
I needed this.
Bro, it's been tough, man. It's been tough, but like I said, I just can't wait for this part of the season to kind of off-season to kind of be over and we can kind of look ahead to what we have on this team. But we'll see. We'll see exactly what it is that we have going forward. Go ahead.
It does feel good to see them out of the reclamation project conversations as well. Like they're now going after, again, I don't love Derek White, but knowing the kind of player he is, he's a championship level player that can help you get to a plateau you're trying to get. So seeing that the Pistons are even in those kind of conversations, there was a report about them maybe being the favorites to go after a guy like Trey Murphy. Like knowing that you graduated out of James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley conversations shows where the Pistons are truly going. And that's something to celebrate this offseason.
Bro, it's crazy. We have both of them on our team. We had 2 lefties on our team, bruh, 2 lefty bigs on our team.
What was Troy Weaver thinking, bro?
I don't know, Troy. What you thinking, Troy?
Boy, you
thought to Troy. But man, what you thinking, bro? But no, you mentioned Trey Murphy. What are your thoughts on? I've seen you, and I've seen some trade proposals with him going to Denver. Them being the favorites with him and Jamal Murray and Yoke. That's crazy. That to me, that's a championship level team.
That's a perfect.
If you swap out MPJ with Trey, man, what?
That's a perfect destination for him. When I saw that as the first one, I'm like, yeah, they need to be the first ones to make that call. That would be such a spot on move for them.
Man, that'd be perfect. He's a really good player, man. Like he has star potential for sure. You look at everything he can do, man. His athleticism, his shooting ability, his handle, he's strong. Like he's crazy, bro. He's really, really good.
I slept on the Pelicans. I didn't watch a whole lot of their season, so I saw some games and I watched a lot of highlights of him. Dude is shooting from the parking lot.
Yeah, bro.
Like, bro. I didn't realize he had it like that. The way he can rise up and dunk on anybody. He's got a long, wingspan. Can guard like probably 1 through 4. Like he is super impressive. It sucks where New Orleans is right now because that's a guy you could have to build around as your 2 or 3 guy, maybe 1 depending on how he grows. Yeah, he is unbelievably fun to watch. I love his game.
Man, I think he's gonna make it. I don't know what's going on with Zion right now as far as his availability, but having a guy like Trey Murphy makes that sting a little bit less.
Yes,
because that dude is the real deal. Yeah. Like he talent wise. Him and Zion is like, to me, like he's really that good, man. He's crazy. So we'll see. We'll see, man. Any other thoughts on any of the topics we talked about tonight before we get out of here, bro?
I think I'm good, man. Look at this is fun off seasons. I got more I want to say, but I'm gonna relax for now. I ain't trying to. I'm just kidding. We don't want Derek White. No more Derek White conversation.
One more time.
Follow me on social media. You say Derek White's name, I'm blocking you immediately. You have been warned, people. I'm telling y'all right now.
You know it's still gonna happen, though, right?
Of course it is. Let me see who gonna be first. Who's brave enough? I want to see you talk right now. I dare you.
Man, oh man, just brace yourself like an overbite, man, because you know what's coming, bro. You know what's coming. Shout out to Lupe. Listen, man. So you guys, that's a wrap for this show, man. Been a great show, Eric, having you on. Appreciate you guys coming on. We appreciate you guys always showing your support. You guys always bring it. Eric, my brother, you have brought the heat again, as usual, as you always do. Do everyone a favor here and let us know where and how we can keep up with you and what you are doing, bro.
Thanks for the time, man. Always fun being here with y'all. Yeah, hit me up on my social media everywhere at I am Eric Vincent. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of the above at I am Eric Vincent. Hit me up on there. I saw somebody in the comment section. I do have a YouTube channel. You can follow and subscribe. It's called Top Title Detroit. Subscribe there. I'm coming in close on 300 subscribers. It's a little light right now, but I'm trying to do my best to build it up a little bit for you. Again, I feel like the Detroit sports circuit is the best in the country, and you guys have the best representation from people like Deuce and King who give you this kind of work every week. So if y'all can support these kind of channels so you don't have to listen to Shaq and Charles Barkley embarrass us on a week-to-week basis, these are the kind of people you want to be tapped in with. So hit me up, Top Title Detroit. I would really appreciate the love. You can also follow my writing at clutchpoints.com. And I'm the Pistons beat reporter there on their website. Getting really excited for the season to start up again. It'll be my 3rd season, my 2nd full one. And you can follow my writing on there at clutchpoints.com. Appreciate y'all.
There it is, man. Great articles. I read all of them. So you will definitely benefit from checking those out. Very, very insightful. Boy does his homework. Boy's very, very thorough, very, very honest, very transparent. So all the stuff you want to see, all the stuff you want to read about. So as always, appreciate you, bro. We are going to get out of here, y'all. We got some Pistons content coming soon for you guys. King will be back soon once he gets, takes care of his priorities and gets that taken care of as he should be doing. But you guys may also get some Pistons music coming soon too. So stay out on the lookout for that. So y'all have a great night. And y'all know the drill. Detroit versus everybody.
And when you knock me down, I'm getting back up. Cause when I step on the floor, you know your time's up. I'm on my way up and I'm not gonna stop. We headed straight to the top in the low. I gotta chase it. I got no time to waste it. It's my time now.